Welcome to this tutorial on how to use the Hindi sound effect manager tool. Should be pretty fast. So anyways, let's get started. So this whole thing is made so that you can easily drag and drop the sound effect, and then play it through one simple line of code. So anyways, let's get to it. So I'll make a quick folder called tutorial folder. You can call it, I'll call it project folder. Yeah, project. Then I'll click on it. I'll go create variables. Actually, yeah, let's make first our sound manager. So this is a scriptable object. Call them sound manager. And here, as you can see, ignore the call times. Nothing. You don't need this as a person. But we're gonna see we have a sound effects list here, so we can increase the size a bit. Let's set it to three, or I'll set it to. Yeah, I'll set it to three for now. And we also take in a global sound effect volume here, which is basically a flow variable. It's a float as a scriptable object here. I'll call this global volume, global SF volume. Here we can use a range to assign its value. So I'll set it to 1 because that's the max value for audio, and then we can check here to use description or not. You don't need to use a description, but just in case you want to add some comments on your scriptable objects, you can use this. Anyways, go back sound manager. So we can drag in already a global sound effect here, global sound effect volume variable here, and then we have three sound effect scriptable objects which it needs. So let's get to making them. Create sound again, right click, create sound. We go to sound effect this time, and we call the sound effect 1. Okay, so what's all this? Okay, so first let's go to the use description, self-explanatory. If you click this, allows you to write a description about your little sound effect if you want to. Then we go to the audio clip here. You can choose an audio clip from your scene. For this, I'll use, let's say, Retrofire 1. These 5 sounds are royalty free. You can find them in Open Game Art. They are included in this actual project under the folder free sounds. So you can use them as you wish. It's no biggie. Let's go back to our project folder. Yep, we have our sounds. So here we can change the volume or the pitch of our sound effect. We can even change it to be a repeatable sound effect. I'll get to that later. So the main thing about this thing that I made just for myself as well, and I want to share with people, is the preview sound effect option. So I can play a sound effect inside the editor just like you would do with the inbuilt Unity thing. Let's fire 1. That's the inbuilt one. Now if you go to our project, yep, Retrofire 1. Now here I can change the volume and preview it with my own volume. So I click preview sound effect. I can change this volume. See, and default it's set to 0.5 just in case. And I can also change its pitch, and preview it. But it's no biggie. Anyways, see, whenever also the way this works is once you click preview sound effect, it generates a game object here in your game scene, which generates another game object which is parented to this one, which has an audio source on it. And what this scriptable object does is it gets by name this audio tester and just uses it to play a sound effect by assigning it a custom volume like this. So that's this feature, first feature. That's good. And then let's create two more, 2 and 3. I'll give it a different audio clip, Retrofire 3, and then how about a task completed? Actually, I'll change this to Retrofire 1 for clarity's sake. So let's drag this guy here and this guy here. Now, uh, a way to use this with scripts. Now that's the another plus of this package asset is the fact that we can quickly play sound effects here. So let's go here, add component, new script. Let's call this audio player test, just so you know how this works. Okay, open this up in Visual Studio. Already have the scripts open here. So this is audio player test. To use the sound effect, all the sound effect stuff, we're gonna need to use the namespace ASFXM, which we need to add up here. Namespace ASFXM This is so that you don't have this confused with other packages in case they have similar named functions. Anyways, we're gonna need the update and the start. So first things first, we're gonna need the audio source, which we use on this object to play our sound effects, and we're gonna need our sound manager reference. So let's make a public sound manager scriptable object, sound manager, and then let's make a public audio source, audio source, audio source. Now we can also do this as well. Let's give it a get component call. Get component audio source. Now save. Let's go back to our Unity editor, and we've given this ASFXM testing our little script which you just made. These ones are pretty self-explanatory how they have appeared, and let's give it an audio source component now. Audio source, and just I'll drag it in here. Let's also drag in our sound manager here. So we have the necessary components for this to work, and now with a simple function, so let's say if input dot get key down, key code, let's say A, right? The only thing we have to do now is sound manager to play a sound effect dot play. Hey, no, sorry, rookie mistake. Sound manager dot play sound effect. Pass an audio source, which is the audio source we have referenced here, and then we have to pass it a sound effect index. Now I'll quickly get into this. I used ints here for the sound manager. See, this 0th element corresponds to the first element in our sound manager list in sound effects. The reason for this is because I chose to use ints. I used to have a enum setup for this, but if you would change the amount of sound effects you have in the enum, you'd have to now go and change all your switch statements. They wouldn't auto update. So choose this system. The only thing you have to remember is like remember the index of the sound effect you've stored in your list, so you can easily call them. Anyways, you've done this. Now this will play our sound effect from our sound effect 1. So go click play. Now click A, plays the sound effect. I can then go during runtime, change this volume a bit, But anyways, so now when something happens, you can just call this code. Maybe you can put this in a void on trigger collision. Yeah, on trigger or a void on collision enter, or even in a event loop. During an event you can play the sound effect. Let's say when you do a method dot invoke. Let's say invoke this on event dot invoke whatever. You could have a function here which gets invoked, which plays the sound effect with one simple. All you have to do is write this one single line, have these two references, and that's you. You can play sound effects now at your own volume, at your own pitch. Now we have some more options we can use here, so I'll get into them. So what's this bool parameter? So bool use individual volume equals true. Basically, in our sound manager, you've seen how we have a global sound effect volume controller. If you want this global sound effect volume control to control the sound effect volume of the guy we're playing right now, instead of passing a true, which is default, we just pass in a false. So if I click save, now let's go back to Unity. Let's click play. Now we'll keep this at 1. This is the sound now. Change it to 0.5. Much less. 0.1. Much less. So this is the way that parameter works right here. Okay. Now I'll set it back to true because it doesn't really matter. I'll show you now another thing. So let's say we want in an update loop. Let's say for example void movement. Okay. Here you would have all your get axes, and then maybe rigid body, maybe character controller would do something with them. And then you might also want to play a footstep, a walk sound effect, especially if you're in 2D. So you can just call here sound manager dot play sound effect audio source, and let's pass it one of our random ones. let's go for the third one, and let's pass it a true. Okay. So, and I'll call movement in our update script. So I think you know what'll happen now. This will run many frames a second, and we'll have the same sound effect play multiple and multiple times, causing this huge cacophony. So what we're gonna do instead is, do we have a third? No, we don't. Let's go back, change it to 2, save. Okay, so by passing in a 2 here, we're gonna access this element of our list, and it's gonna play this sound effect. Now under a workaround for having a sound effect play in your update loop continuously is the fact that you can give it a custom repeat timer. So if we toggle on repeat sound effect and give it a repeat time of 0.3, let's say, and if we click play, see, or we can do even 1. Now I'll demonstrate you what happens if this becomes 0. Becomes something very bad. So yeah, these are the general functionalities for this whole thing. The fact that you can have repeat the sound effects with the timer, and the quick easy play sound effect thing with just 2 references and 1 function here. Now any additional things you may have, add description, but that's about it. That's how you use this whole thing. If you're interested in this whole script, you can go ahead. They're right here. There's some comments if you want to know, but I haven't commented. Actually, my bad. I haven't commented the editor because I think that's outside of the scope of this package. The editor is what you basically pay for. So if you want me to make a video for this, just feel free to ask. But that's that really. So thanks for watching, and thanks for using this package.